The presentation I'm giving you tonight on an RF power amplifier, there's not a lot of information about this amplifier on the internet. So I thought, well, while I'm doing this, I'm not an authority on the amplifier, but maybe I can help steer somebody in the right direction if they're thinking about this amplifier. So I wanted to start out first with one of my mottos. Okay, I stole it from Lowe's, but never stop improving. And that's something that I try to do in my own station and in my operating. I'm a DXer, but I'm a casual DXer. I'm not hardcore like some of the guys. I'm a contester, but I'm a casual contester. But still, I try to keep improving. And one of the other mottos, Dave mentioned, we like to have fun, but then I tell my students, have fun, but learn something. And so hopefully tonight, maybe I can, help you learn something. So the legal limit amplifier that I'm going to talk to you about tonight is from Germany, from a company called RF Kit. It's the model B26 RF2K+. Rolls right off the tongue. And I'm calling it, and we have the amplifiers right up here you can take a look at after the presentation. I'm calling it a software-defined amplifier. And I'll tell you why in just a little bit. So the criteria in looking for a legal limit amplifier, I have an Elecraft KPA 500. Now, 500 watts, works great. It's solid state, it's no tune. It works with my Flex 6500 perfectly. It's like a 500 watt transceiver. But there are those occasions, i.e. Bouvet and others, that you might like to have a legal limit amplifier. So I was inspired by Dave, K4SV, with his LD Moss amplifier that he brought in to show us. So I needed something that would interface with my Flex 6500, and I also have a Flex 6600 on order, so I had to try to keep that in mind. And I wanted something that was affordable. And I wanted something with an antenna tuner, something that I could possibly operate remotely, something that might fit in with a single operator 2 radio configuration. Oh, and did I mention it needed to be affordable? Because I'm a cheapskate. So in getting ready for the legal limit amplifier, I had to think about my station setup, and I replaced some low power 600 watt rated antennas. I had to consider my antenna switching, my feed lines, and any new antennas that I put up at the station, and I put up 2 new ones, I put up with legal limit operation in mind. I had an antenna party like Tom was talking about. So which amplifier was I going to choose? Well, I had the Elecraft, the KPA 500. I love it. So really my first choice was the KPA 1500 that Elecraft has announced, but they are not yet delivering. But I saw the amplifier. It's beautiful. The price for this amplifier is about $6,000. But it does have built-in antenna tuner. It would just kind of plug and play with my current setup. So that was probably at the top of my list, except maybe this one, since I'm using a Flex radio. Flex is selling their new amplifier Genius. It's an amplifier that's actually made in Croatia by 4 Oscar 3 Alpha. SkySat, I think is the name of his company. Ranco is the ham. Beautiful amplifier. I've seen it in a number of different versions. $7,000 for this amplifier. And while it does not come with an antenna tuner, Flex Radio said that if you buy an amplifier in 2017, you will also get an outboard antenna tuner at no extra cost. So that was okay. That's maybe. But $7,000? Okay. And then I looked at the Expert. And they came out with the new 1.5. They had the Expert 1.3, but now it's 1.5. And it essentially meets all of my criteria. Solid state, no tune. antenna tuner with some provision for single operator, 2 radio, but this amplifier's $5,000. Okay, what to do, what to do? And then came my friend Michael, who was in our amateur extra class last year, and he said, Gary, what about that amplifier that I saw out at Visalia in California? What about it, Michael? Well, it was under $3,000. What? Legal limit? Yes, LD MOS technology. What? So this was the display at Visalia in California at the DX convention there that is between the Southern California DX Association and Northern California DX Association. And these photos were taken by N6 TV of the amplifier on display there. And so then I found the website, which, by the way, we have links here, and I can send you the links if you'd like any more of the URLs for any of this information. The website is a little lacking in detailed information, and a lot of it is in German, because it is a German product, but it was intriguing. So then came Dayton last year in May, and lo and behold, guess who's there? The RF kit people from Germany. And here are the principals. This is the main man right here. This is Reinhard Forscher, I believe is how you pronounce his name. This is Chris, who's another one of the Germans. And this is probably the expert from America, Mark NU6X from Sedona, Arizona. And they had amplifiers on display. I took these pictures of the amplifiers that they had there. And the amplifier has a built-in VNC server running, which means that the display, which is on the front of the amplifier, can be remoted to a computer on the same network, not only for display purposes, but also for control. So you can control the amplifier completely remotely over TCP/IP. So, what am I going to do? Well, I decided to buy it. So this is my invoice. And if you look at the bottom, the price that I paid was 2,928 euros, which if you convert that to dollars, is about $3,500. Now, I did have an advantage. As some of you know, my wife is German, and so we actually have an apartment in Germany that we rent out, so we have kind of a business going on in Germany. We pay German taxes as well as American taxes. But I had an account that had euros in it, so I did not have to transfer money from dollars to euros. That'll add probably another $200 to the price. So,
what about VAT?
No VAT because it's coming outside of Europe. So there's no VAT, and because it comes as a kit, it's an incomplete amplifier, there are no customs duties or tariffs. So the delivery time from when the amplifier became available, I actually sent them the money a month ahead of time. And then when the amplifier became available, it was shipped in 2 days and arrived by FedEx Air. And this is how it came, in one big box, but it was a box within a box with lots of bubble wrap. And when you take it apart, it came with the boards fully populated, with much of the amplifier already assembled. And so there wasn't as much work as you might think in order to put it together.
I'm assuming it's tested as well?
Board tested, yes, but not tested as an integrated amplifier.
Gary, does it have to pass FCC certification?
It does not, because it's a kit. And so it is not been submitted to the FCC for type acceptance. So I am responsible for the emissions of the amplifier, just as Dave's amplifier, he is responsible for the emissions from that. So, so the assembly, what I had to acquire, I had to get some additional parts. I had to buy 3 fans. I had to buy a Raspberry Pi. They sent Teflon coaxial cable, the white coax you see inside, and I had to make 4 RF interconnections in the amplifier. I had to build an AC power cord, and then, as a surprise at the last minute, I had to drill and tap because they hadn't drilled and tapped the case in order to mount the outer case. So I had to do that too. Those are the RF interconnections, and one of those cables is wrong. The big long one there was an error in the assembly manual. And I'll talk more about that, it didn't kill the project, but it made one cable about half an inch too short. So here's some of the RF interconnections here that I had to make with the white coax. And when you first set up the amplifier, you actually have to do a little gimmick here with an SMA connector going directly to one of the cables so that you actually do the setup for the SWR bridge and protection without any RF running through the RF deck. It just runs through the bandpass filters. And the amplifier is from Europe, so therefore it is metric. So I needed some metric hardware. I gave Lowe's a plug at the beginning. I'll give them another one. They've got now a fairly nice selection of metric hardware. And they did have some 3mm stuff. Yes, question?
Metric tabs?
I have metric tabs.
Did you have them or did you have to?
I had them. Harbor Freight, I mean, it's not all that hard. But Lowe's does not have long 3mm screws. So I had to go to the universal source of all parts, Amazon.com. They have everything. And so I got some longer metric 3mm from Amazon. So this is one of the fans that I had to add to the back. I had to remove the RF deck because the wiring for the fan comes down underneath and plugs into a connector over here. So I had to extend the power lead of that fan as well. It only uses 2 wires for the fans because all of the power for the fans, it's pulse width modulated that controls then the speed of the fans.
Gary?
Yeah.
Relative to the heatsink, it's hard to see. It looks like the fin part of the heatsink is pointing down. What's at the bottom there? Is it just an aluminum box?
Yes, and you can take a look when you get up here closer. There's the LD MOS devices, the output devices here. There's a big copper plate underneath it, and then the large heat sink, aluminum heat sink finned arrangement down below.
How long are the fins, do you know?
Probably 4 inches,
Oh,
3
really?
inches. And there's a fan on the inside blowing air that way, and there's an exhaust fan here that continues the airflow. So far, heat has not really been an issue at all. I have to work to get it over 40 degrees Celsius. All right, so got the amplifier completed, and by the way, all of the information comes from a Yahoo group. That's where all of the files are, the assembly instructions, photographs, et cetera, et cetera. And there are different versions. I've got a book up here which has all of the instructions if you want to take a look at that. Finally, when it's assembled, there are 13 pages of test and calibration procedures that you have to go through. But it doesn't require anything super special. You need an accurate digital voltmeter. I think you need a scope probe because some of the connections you have to make, that helps. A BNC adapter and some small clip test leads helped with the DVM to get into on some tight areas. You need an alignment tool for the multi-turn pots, and most of the adjustments are made on the controller board, which is on the front. Some are made on the SWR bridge. You need 2 dummy loads because they purposely have you run into 2 dummy loads in parallel, which will be a standard SWR of 2 to 1, and that's part of the calibration procedure. I cheated. I used a Cantenna and a 300-watt MFJ Air dummy load in parallel so that I got the right, impedance, but I didn't have really the right power handling, so I had to be careful. You need an accurate watt meter. I had an Elecraft W2, and so that's what I used. And you need a 240 volt AC source wherever you're going to do the calibration. Thankfully, I had that available to me in the shop. So this was my test setup. I used a Yaesu FT-DX1200 as my signal source. And the good thing about that is it's continuously variable down to 5 watts, I think, and up to 100 watts. The W2, the dummy load is on the floor, and various screwdrivers and alignment tools, etc. First power up. Well, it wasn't quite like this. When I first powered it up, it was dark. Nothing. What? But then I looked on the boards and I saw little LEDs lit up on the boards. What's going on here? The front panel of the amplifier, you can come up and take a look at it, I believe it's a 7-inch touchscreen display. And on the back of the touchscreen display is a teeny tiny little switch to turn on the display board. Click! And then it came to life. So this is the controller board back here where most of the alignment and adjustments are made. This is a Raspberry Pi down on the bottom, and there's an Arduino computer there. When you first boot up the amplifier, it comes with an SD card that has the programming built in, and the Raspberry Pi loads up and then programs the Arduino. And it does it all behind the scenes so you don't see anything, and then comes up with the standard operating display. And this is the standard operating display. There are actually different versions of this. So you can have a cross needle SWR meter if you want that, or you can have this bar graph display. You've got tune buttons, operate, standby, an indicator on the antenna tuner as to what capacitance and inductance is being used. And you can see on the bench, I had 1,500 watts out into the dummy load, and also indicated over here on the amplifier. Now, in my shack, I only had one 240 volt outlet because I never thought I'd have 2 amplifiers. So what I did is I made a Y adapter for 240 volts using parts you find at your local antenna store, and works fine, and I feel safe with doing this. I'm not going to use both amplifiers at the same time. So, and then interfacing the radio, you can come up and take a look. The radio has a Gozina for the transmitter to come in. It's got a 4-port antenna switch, which you can program for various bands, for automatic switching if you want. Push-to-talk connector here, a small SMA connector, which is an RF sample port, which is very nice to have. I have that running to my Kenwood station monitor, the vertical input, so that I can monitor the output of the amplifier. And then it's got a USB connection here, and of course the power connection down there. There is no ALC input for the amplifier. ALC is not used. So controlling the amplifier, interfacing with your radio, there are 3 modes. One that they call universal, which you run RF into the amplifier and then a push-to-talk line. And the minute RF is sensed by the amplifier, it will determine what the frequency is, what band it's on. It will move to the right bandpass amplifiers. And if there's a tuner memory, it should move to that. And then it will output RF. That's the universal mode. There's CAT control, computer-aided transceiver control, which uses the USB connection. And then finally, there's something called PA bridge. We'll talk more about that. So CAT control, I thought, hey, this is going to be easy. This is going to be no problem. And so with the Yaesu 1200, there is a file or a driver selection that you can make that for the FTDX 1200, and with the right speed, 4800 baud, and the right configuration, 8 no parity, 2 stop bits, everything started talking. And so the frequency on the radio became the frequency on the amplifier. I thought, hey, we're winning. All right, so let me try that with my Flex. Well, got the RS-232 handshaking working. I'm using a direct USB cable from the back of the Flex to a null modem adapter into the amplifier. Everything was talking together fine. I tried the selection for the Flex 6000 series radios. It didn't work. No, nothing. Huh? Well, Flex radio uses the Kenwood language. It emulates the Kenwood. So when I selected up a Kenwood TS50, then it played. And everything came, into operation. I got green, which is an indication that everything's fine, and the frequency was indicated down here. And I thought, hey, okay, again, I've got this going on. Stand by. So, problem. Using the computer-aided transceiver control in the manner I've described, I discovered that there was about a half a second delay after I engaged PTT to get any RF output. What? What's going on here? The bandpass filter followed the frequency selection, but the amplifier would not engage. I think it's not reading the frequency that's being sent to it over the RS-232. And so it was actually in the universal mode, even though I had the RS-232 connection. So it was waiting, it was reading the frequency, and then only then allowing RF output. So I moved to what they call PA Bridge, which is a software program that runs on a station computer that you have to also use DX Lab Suite Commander. And now if you don't like their logging software, you at least have to run the Commander software. The PA Bridge software talks to Commander and then talks to the amplifier, and that sends all of the information over the Ethernet connection of your local area network to the amplifier, and everything works properly. So with the PA Bridge, I could remove the RS-232 cable. You do use the push-to-talk, and the bandpass and actual frequency info is passed on the Ethernet connector, and there is no delay. Now, why is this, though? And remember, I called this a software-defined amplifier. Oh, by the way, this is the VNC remote screen, so you can see what the amplifier is doing on a monitor in front of you if you wanted to, and actually use your mouse to do controls. So here's the amplifier in the shack. I found this scope cart at the Shelby Ham Fest, and I knew I had plans for a new amplifier, and I thought, hey, I'm going to grab that. Either I'll put my monitor scope on it, or I'll put the amplifier on it, and I found it fits perfectly. It works great. And, okay, I'll come back to the problems here in a second. I also upgraded my antenna switching. I was using an Ameritron remote antenna switch that I had modified for computer control. What I did was I upgraded to another product from 4 Oscar 3 Alpha, which is what they call their Antenna Genius, which has 2 inputs for 2 radios and up to 8 antennas, and it's a switch matrix. And so you can actually, and with high isolation, so you can actually have 2 radios running through the switch at the same time to different antennas. And it's interlocked, so you can't operate, radio into another radio. Very nice piece of kit, and it's living up in a weatherproof fiberglass box on the top of my shack up by my roof tower. And this is the software that you use to control the antenna switch. I have it set up for manual operation right now, but it fully integrates with the Flex radio, and you can set it up to do automatic switching based on band, which I may do in the future. And I also upgraded my power and SWR monitoring by adding a second SWR coupler from Elecraft, so I can now monitor both the Elecraft amplifier and my new amplifier. So, okay, issues and considerations. RF Kit is a new company, so to speak. The B26, they call it the B26 amplifier. That B stands for Bavaria, and 26 is the chapter number of the DARC club in Forsheim, Germany. So this is a club project. This is how this started out. And in fact, the club there is actually offering, independent of the company, if you want them to build the amplifier for you, they will, for a fee. So that's what the B26 is all about. The amplifier is priced in euros, so the exchange rate and transfer fees become an issue. The amplifier is an incomplete kit, so there's no customs duties. FedEx shipping from Germany, as I said, is 2 days. The Yahoo group is your primary information source. And there's some good information there. There's some maybe not so good information there. I have made contact with 3 other people who are using the amplifier. One in North Carolina, one in Toronto, and one in Arizona. And they have given me the best information about the amplifier. Now you know somebody here, however, though they can help you out. The manuals are not great. They've been updated a few times. Some were translated from German. And there are some errors in the manuals, like that cable length that I told you about. They're updating them. They're making things better. So it's not, but it's not a Heath kit. You're not going to say step 1, step 2, step 3, check, check, check. It's not quite that easy. The holes I had to drill and tap, the no AC power cord. And right now, no online software updating is provided. This is a software-defined amplifier, and the amplifier is currently being shipped with what they're calling interim software, version 51. And in this interim software, the antenna tuner is bypassed. The antenna tuner does not yet work. I mean, it works. It goes through the motions, but it's actually bypassed because of a hardware change that they made, that they have to update the programming that goes to the Arduino before it can be switched in the circuit. And version 55 software is coming, they say, maybe before Christmas. For anyone who owns a Flex radio, we're all familiar with this. It's coming, it's coming. So that's why this is a software-defined radio, because when you're buying an amplifier, think about the software that's in the amplifier, if it has software. Will it work with your radio? Will it work with your radio right now? The other thing is the amplifier does not use pin diode switching for transmit and receive. It uses relays. So if you're a CW operator and you want full break-in, this may not be the amplifier for you. Yes, sir?
How loud are the relays?
They're not loud at all.
Okay, so you could run it.
You could. Semi-break-in would be fine, no problem, but I worry about hot switching. But
Are they vacuum relays or just conventional relays?
I think they're conventional, but I'm not really sure. I haven't dug into that yet. I'm a single sideband operator at the moment, so that's what I am concerned about. The amplifier will not run from 120 volts. The Elecraft, for example, will at a reduced power rating. There's no specifications sheet or even an operating manual for the amplifier yet. You kind of got to figure that out as you go. And since it is a kit, and since you are the guy that built it, well, you are responsible for spurious emissions. So it uses the W6 LPL bandpass filters, which are a good design, But I actually ordered a software-defined radio that I want to use as a poor man spectrum analyzer to do some intermodulation tests and also to look for harmonics, just to say that I've done my due diligence about this. Yeah.
American companies are required by the FCC to pass their certification tests before they can sell them as kits in the US. Like even Hard Rock 50,
Right.
they had to pass. They would not sell without passing.
Okay, well, this may become a future issue then, I don't know. But at the moment, it is not an issue. Yeah, Tom?
What's the 911 warranty? I mean, who do you call if it breaks, and is there anybody standing behind?
Well, you call Reinhardt, you call the group. From what I've read online, they're pretty good about providing replacement parts. But this is, you're in, with the group. So, as long as the group is solid, you're going to be okay. But if you're concerned about that, then yes, a commercial amplifier would probably be a better thing. So here's information about the interim software. I also have it in the book up there. They're working hard to get image 55 released. They have known issues. Some of the readings, for example, peak and hold display is displaying average power instead of PEP, which is why I'm glad I have the Elecraft power meter, because it would have gotten me in trouble. I would have been over 1,500 watts had I not known that. Some 6-meter performance is going to be improved. All of these issues will be resolved with version 55.
Famous last words.
If I had it to do over again, would I do it? Yes. I think the hardware in the amplifier, I think, is rock solid. The issue is with the software, with the user interface and with the control functions. And I can't write software, so I am at the mercy of the company. But I think it's a really nice product, and I look forward to it, maturing.
Yeah, the price is very attractive because the W6 PQL, he would assemble one for you for, it's only 1,000 watt LD loss, and he will assemble 10 meters for about $3,000 at half the power.
Right. Interesting.
Gary,
Yeah.
How long do you figure it took you to put this all together, receiving?
They estimated it takes about 8 hours, and that's about right, but I didn't rush through it. I took my time. Actually, I had the amplifier for about a week, 10 days before I even opened up the box because we had visitors, so I couldn't get to it. But it's not difficult.
Did that include calibration time, calibration?
Calibration time took me about a day. It took me a morning.
How quiet is that even when it's going?
It's very quiet.
Fans.
Very quiet. Yep.
So with pulse width modulation, the fans
They ramp up. Yes.
ramp up with the
Correct. Yeah.
But you said it's never been over
I-
72 anyways.
It does indicate the temperature on the front panel, and I have a hard time getting it up above 40 degrees Celsius. But I haven't run it in a contest yet, so, and I look forward to doing that.
Is the power supply like a third party?
Power supply comes with it. I'm not sure what the source is. I've been told it's a 3,000 watt switching power supply. It's about 50 volts, yes. Yeah.
So when you're driving your dummy load and you hit it for all it's worth,
I've taken it over 2,000 watts. Yeah.
So you've got some headroom?
Yes, yes, yeah. With the two devices, you get that.
Does it do 6 meters?
It will do 6 meters. When version 55 software.
Is that going to be full output on the 6?
Yes, maybe 1,000 watts on 6. I have to look at that. I checked the spec sheet, but there isn't one. Yeah,
Gary, a couple of questions. First of all, with the power supply, could you run with a separate power supply? Or is there other voltages in the power supply that are needed?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. If you could run with an outboard supply, potentially, yeah, I think you could.
Is the, when you turn it on, I'm assuming that, of course, that power supply comes on in some form of startup.
I think the other board's power supplies are derived from it. I think they are, but I'm not sure.
Well, I was wondering, is there a switch for that power supply? So when you turn it on, does it actually?
There's just the front panel switch, which turns everything on.
Now, is that a software switch or a regular switch?
That's a hardware switch. Now, I am hoping that they will come up with a hibernate mode, so that you can put the amplifier in a hibernate situation, so that if I'm operating remotely, then I can wake it up and bring it online.
The only other question I had would be, this is probably kind of from the old school, but is there any way that that could be operated, or any of these units, without the software?
What does
In
that
some
mean?
manual form?
Oh, no.
Well, you could, I suppose, yeah, but I don't think
I'm
you'd
assuming
want
these
to.
were all software switched and all that.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if they had like a,
There's no manual operation. You'd have to reverse engineer and go back and do that yourself if you wanted to, which would be an ultimate fallback if things. But I think things are going to get better, and I think the amplifier will be a top performer. Is it there yet? No. But I'm still happy with what I did and what I have. So
How much does it weigh?
you can come and pick it up. But I think it's about 40 pounds, maybe 35 pounds.
The software upgrades, do they download it to your car?
Eventually, it will be automatic. You'll just be able to push a button and it'll download to you. Right now, in fact, that is in the software right now, but I've been told it's not going to work. So you have to download an image from an FTP server, put it on an SD card, and then stick it in. That's,
Transfer it to the car.
yeah.
Can you talk about remote operations, for example, so that you'll be able to remote in once they get this version 55 software up?
Well, I'm not sure 55 will provide that for me or not yet. Right now, I'm remoting. If I do remote, I can do it with my Elecraft. The KPA 500 works
Do
fine.
you have both?
I have both amplifiers, and I can use either or. With
Because I was like, would you have to do a hard connect to like disconnect it so you can use your Elecraft?
No, what I have set up right now is on the 6500 radio. I have antenna 1 going to the Elecraft, and I have antenna 2 going to the new amplifier. And then with the switch matrix, I can put an antenna on the amplifier. The amplifier that is not being used can either be turned off, or even if it's on, if there's no RF going into it, there's not going to be any
So
issue.
basically, you can still operate remotely even if you, I've still got that one hooked up.
Yeah, yeah, right. And eventually, the 6600 from Flex, when I get that, whenever it's available, is a single operator 2 radio, device, so that I should be able to, with 2 spectral capture units, so I should be able to have one radio and amplifier on one band, and the other other amplifier on another band. Yes, sir.
What about fault protection? Did you trip it out yet?
No,
No? No antenna or?
not yet. But I'm being very careful with it, because that's the other thing with the software. We're getting to know each other. So I'm going really slow. And I think when the new 55 software comes out, I probably will have to go back in and redo the calibration one more time.
Speaking of faults, have you experienced a power dip just like we did then? Does it drop out, you have to reset it?
I have not yet.
Okay, you don't know.
I don't know yet. No.
What
Yeah.
are the tolerances on the input voltage? You said it has to be 240, right?
Well, no, it's 100. I think the rating is 180 volts up to 260 or something like that. So, but it just won't operate on 120. It's not
Well,
designed for
there
that.
are some places that are 220,
Right.
208.
Right. Yes. Yeah. All right? Thank you very much.
Thanks for